Hey, Ben, it's Bryce.
Bryce, what's happening, man? Always good to hear from you.
Always. Last night was a very good show, very good conversation, and obviously Bernie, I think thought Bernie did a pretty good job. I know he didn't win, and the reason I said about rigged last night was because obviously, Bernie wants to see what's going on with the count and seeing if everything was done fairly. And I think he's going to win New Hampshire. I think that I still believe he's going to get it done. But obviously, they're trying every trick in the book, and he's pushing back through it all. And that caller last night, I guess the black guy that was trolling or being the black
real brother, whatever, something. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. That basically the black conscious community, they're not helping with things that they say. I know we talked about that, but it's just I don't know. I just feel like we as a country, it's like we're not ready for progressiveness. Like we say we are, but then we feel like we're not. A lot of times, it's like we come out, we say we want change, we want this, we want that, but then when it's time to put our foot down, we don't do it. Now, not all. There's a lot that does want to change everything, and maybe people feel discouraged because we wanted Obama to be progressive, but he wasn't enough, only so far. And I still think we shouldn't give up just because of certain circumstances.
You know what? You've said a mouthful, Bryce. Let me, and you just jogged my memory because my memory is a little tapped tonight. I'm focusing on keeping everything down. But you said something that I want to address. Let me catch it off of air and catch this next line. But I want to address specifically what you just said. You said that we as America, we are not yet ready for progressivism, or at least it seems like we're not ready for progressivism. And then we get disappointed in President Obama because of the things that he didn't accomplish. Here's something that I want to correct myself on. And it hit me before I started doing this show. I had a standard talking point on President Obama. And it wasn't just a talking point. It was a reasoned position that I crafted out in terms of the lack of progressive achievements for President Obama. It was exactly what Bryce said. Not because America wasn't ready for progressivism. A lot of times we lay it at the feet of President Obama, but the reality of it was the Democratic establishment was not really ready for progressivism. Not the political left, because the political left has been shouting, let's be progressive for a very long time. But the Democratic establishment, the powers that be, the infrastructure, the party players, they were not ready for progressivism, nor did they really want progressivism. Because if they did, they would not have run away from President Obama in 2010 after he accomplished the Affordable Care Act, which was labeled as socialist when it was actually at best moderate right. But that's an entirely different story. They ran away from him. The establishment ran away from President Obama, and they lost because they would not boldly stand on the progressive principles that we hope to achieve. And so they decided that the best way for us establishment players to keep our office is to tiptoe away from President Obama. Now, they want to blame all of these establishment players, all of you who've been doing this for a long time. You want to blame the Progressive Caucus for not. Let me start that sentence over. You want to blame the Progressive Caucus for the loss in 2010 and the loss in 2014. When in actuality, it was your candidates who decidedly made the decision to run away from President Obama, giving not a single reason for us progressives to support you, one, but then two, not even your own establishment base supported you. Everybody turned out low in 2010 and 2014, and that's because establishment Democrats were fearful of President Obama's potential progressivism. It's hard to talk tonight, but we're going to make it. If you are afraid of being who you say you are Everybody smells blood in the water. Republicans did not take over in 2010 because they ran to the middle. Republicans took over in 2010 and 2014, even more so because they ran further to the right and they represented something that their base wanted. They realized that we need to stop being these mamsy-pamsy conservative rhinos, Republicans in name only, because our base is not sending us up here to be Republicans in name only. Let's be the craziest damn conservatives we possibly can be. And that's why they won. And you have this self-defeating, self-sabotaging strategy that Democrats constantly do during midterm elections. Whenever we have a Democratic president, they run to the center and you lose and you lost. And your establishment lost. And you cannot blame it on the progressives because you gave us moderate right candidates. Why would we vote for a moderate right candidate when there is a further right candidate who can do a better job at being a Republican than a Democrat can? And so now the narrative is, this is political spin 104. This is graduate level, senior level. We'll get to graduate level in a minute. The spin now becomes that it's the fault of people like Bernie Sanders that President Obama couldn't get anything done because progressives sat down in 2010 and 2014, when in actuality, everybody sat down in 2010 and 2014. Why? Because the establishment Democrats thought that it would be strategically better for them to run to the center and be more moderate than it would be to even support their moderate right President Obama, moderate right Obamacare. They ran away from a moderate right Romney piece of legislation, a Heritage Foundation brainchild piece of legislation. They ran to the right of that. And they're surprised that Democrats said, to hell with it, let's just stay home. And now somehow that's Bernie Sanders' fault, right? And now it's Bernie Sanders who is not supporting President Obama because he's calling for us to actually be more progressive than President Obama could be. And because he understands that if we're actually going to accomplish this progressive achievement, we're going to need people down ticket. We're going to need people on the ground. We're going to need grassroots. We're going to need people in governor seats. We're going to need progressives everywhere, which is what the blurb is actually talking about on the damn book that everyone thinks is such a nail in the coffin for Bernie Sanders. But I digress. In actuality, he's saying the obvious. President Obama was completely incapable, just like any other president is completely incapable of forwarding their agenda if they do not have support down the line. And you tell me what chicken shit cowards backed away from President Obama in 2010 and 2014? Who ran away? Who would not allow President Obama to be seen with them in public? The Democratic establishment. But now this is somehow the progressive caucus's fault. This is what you have, people, ladies and gentlemen. You have people who want to shove something down your throat and say you just better like it, because if you don't like it, then a Republican is going to get into office. And you better do what we say, even though what we say is going to be just as detrimental to you as a moderate Republican. Because as Hillary Clinton already conceded, she voted for the Bush tax cuts that President Obama had to subsequently come behind and undo. So yes, Hillary Clinton, you can be a moderate in a world where the center of our political discourse, the Overton window, is centered around right-leaning ideas, right-leaning presuppositions, right-leaning framework, right? You can be a moderate in this environment that we've existed in since Ronald Reagan, and you would be a right-leaning person in the international sense. In American politics, you can call yourself a moderate, but in the real sense of what is progressive and what is conservative, you are more of a conservative. And I think that's the bottom line, right? The bottom line is nobody wants to call a spade, but if you listen to this clip from Chris Matthews, and I can't even play the